All right. Gregory Liebau, are you coming back in? Ben Munger, are you coming back in? And start calling people by name. All right. So we've had some drop off. Understandably, it's the end of a long day, and I, for one, am feeling that we're at the end of a long day. But I would like to, our plan for this very last session was to, again, give people an opportunity to talk together about some of the things that you've learned today, some of the questions that have come up for you. So I'm going to invite you to just take 30 seconds to think about all of the different things that we have experienced today. So Mr. Jeff got us started with a wonderful orientation to the land and to the First Peoples and to the ways that all of us as relations can move forward together. And then Mr. Collins shared with us about his book and all of the things that he learned through the process of creating that book. I don't have the agenda in front of me. I'm probably going to miss a session. We had the opportunity, thanks, Darlene. Much appreciated. We had the opportunity to hear from the directors of our farm bureaus in Kings County and in Tulare County about the view from where they stand and from where their constituents stand. We talked about Sequoias to the Sloughs as a working framework with representatives of the Tule River Tribe, Audubon Society, and the Allensworth Progressive Association. So thinking again that map over there, the idea from the Sequoias all the way down onto the valley floor. We had a fun interactive activity, hopefully, where people got a chance to really talk with each other. And we've taken down the Post-its, but please know that those are going to be reviewed and synthesized as part of the next steps that the Watershed Partnership Network is going to be evaluating as to see what comes next. And then we had a presentation from Mr. Harmon about the really cool stuff that he's been doing as far as data with the QIA and the Tule and those MLRP programs. Our panel here, and here we are now. So hopefully that gave you enough time to think about where you are, what your questions are, what your takeaways are. So again, the invitation is to turn to a partner, hopefully someone that you haven't talked to yet today. There's fewer of us in the room, so feel free to get up and move around and seek someone out with whom you haven't spoken yet today. So we'll spend about just 5 minutes talking together, share your thought, listen to your partner's thought, and then we'll come back together in a larger group and probably we'll have time for about 5 folks to share. So this is your chance to partner up, share your questions, share your thoughts. What are your takeaways from all of these different things that we've done today?
Hi, I'm Emily. Emily, I'm Darlene.
Can I chat with you, Yannicka? What are your thoughts? Where are you at the end of today? Other than tired.
This has been, I guess, surprisingly good.
Good. At least that was the adjective.
Yeah, no, and then I was just thinking too, like I know, like my mom was like, you should have said something. I'm like, nah, I'm already like, I was like, no. But I was thinking right now when you were just, I'm like, oh yeah, next year we could present about how our project works, the MLR,
Yeah.
and then the collaboration and stuff like that. So
that would be so cool.
Maybe I should have said something. But yeah, no, I think it's been good. I think, but yeah, there definitely is like, there has to be more relationship building and stuff, because like that guy that was sitting at the end, I was just like, he's definitely still in that mindset of like, or how he views the land. It's very much like commodity or something.
Proprietary, extractive,
yeah. And so I'm like, oh man. So anyway, yeah, like there just has to be more conversations then. I think too, like kind of like we had talked about that last MLRP with how to reach out to more farmers and stuff. And so I'm like, yeah, I guess there are other community members that maybe. I mean, as far as the tribal representative, obviously, that's a lot of people don't have
Good. I mean, there's just so much work to do, right? Like, and even thinking about some of Des's comments.
But I didn't hear about this until just Rob and Richard had something. And so, and that's just because I recently had meetings. But yeah, so it's like, you know, I don't know about how it's out here. Yeah. And then like the
Yeah. All right, if I could bring everybody's attention back up to the front. I love how these conversations are happening. I love how it's hard to wrap up the conversation. So as we're finished, if you can hear me, clap once. All right, that worked pretty well. Okay, good, thank you. So as we're wrapping up the day, I just wanted to make some space in this whole group, the whole group that remains, for a few folks to share a thought, one of your takeaways from today, a question that you're walking away with today, an idea that you're thinking you'd like to take forward. I think, Larry, how many people do you think we should have? 5? 5 folks to share. So don't everybody raise your hands at once. Darlene?
Hello. Oh, is it on?
Oh. Mm-hmm. Yep, good.
Okay. Did it. Hoyoshim, Darlene Franco. I'm from the Book Chumney people, and I came here, I was the Yankut's guest because I didn't even register, but I came because I was interested in what was going on with what people had to say about the Tulare Lake Basin. That was my main reason for coming here, but coming here and seeing everybody from different walks of life, different perspectives with what you're working on, the work that you're doing. It's very eye-opening. Because we're doing our work, I was just explaining here to Emily about the history that, was passed on from my mom and my grandparents, and the importance of our watershed, the importance of the rivers and the lakes, and the lakes now, but Tulare Lake, and how our people lived there and had everything they needed. And we lived in balance with the earth. And we always encourage people who aren't native to here, but who live here, to learn to live in rhythm with the land. Learn to live in rhythm with what is here already. Our people were not farmers. Our people gathered. Our people took care of the land, and we gathered. Robert just shared some of the saltgrass that he gathered, which is one of our traditional foods. And so this is what we did. We gathered what was here, we harvested, and we lived off the land here. The animals that were here, the foods that were grown on the land, we had the rivers and the waters, so everything we had was here. This was our paradise. When things started happening, colonization, different things changing, it changed perspective for all of our lives. And we adapted. That's what we did. That's what we had to do. I was just explaining also about when the dam was put up, when Terminus Dam was put up. Back then, it was going to happen whether we liked it or not. Army Corps of Engineers came in and they were going to put this dam up, and that's what we were told. So some of our elders at that time were like, okay, well, maybe it's better that these sacred sites are underwater so they won't be disturbed any longer. They won't be desecrated any longer. If that were to be proposed to us today, we would say no. We would say no, this is not going to happen. because, we're in a different place today. But, things happen how they happen, but I'm very glad to be here today and to see the support and see the work and everybody that is here that cares for the land, cares for the people, and cares for, everybody that's living here. And we are what we say, Kumoin and Yoka, it's all my relations. So we are all one people. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Deb. Anyone else who'd like to share thought, question, takeaway?
It's just a takeaway for me. So we've heard about nature-based solutions, beaver dam analogs, pole-assisted log structures, those sorts of things on the watershed. And I think it's time to start instituting nature-based decisions.
Thanks, Gary. All right, 3 more folks who'd like to share.
So if I can do a teacher kind of a thing here, I brought a book with me today that's sort of partly responsible for me being where I am and doing what I'm doing today. It's from 1913 called Some Birds of the Fresno District, California. Now when I first was given this by a librarian when I was with Fresno Audubon years ago as a high school student, and I read this, I had to keep going, Fresno? Is this talking about the place where I live? It was everything in here describing these birds was like, oh my God, this place is so changed. So if I could read a paragraph from here, I'm doing it because when class was done, so many of my ecology students would leave bummed out because the issues we dealt with were too big, too scary, depressing. So this is meant to be sort of end of the day, walk away feeling a little bit better, remembering that the earth and living things are resilient to an extent. So here's what John Tyler wrote in here. It says, the water birds of the region about Fresno, although highly interesting, are difficult to study. Their occurrence or absence depends upon the abundance or scarcity of water in the valley. Hence, their numbers vary greatly from season to season. One may sometimes spend the whole summer in locating the most favorable ponds and sloughs, only to find that on account of a minimum rainfall, these ponds are entirely dried up the next season. Again, an unusually wet winter may result in an abundance of water and its accompanying host of birds in places where they had been almost unknown previously. Goes on to say, it is with regret that we note a gradually diminishing number of waterfowl returning to us each fall. Doubtless the next few years will see the passing of several species forever, so far as this valley is concerned. That has not turned out to be that way for the most part. While it is probably true that gunners are in a large measure responsible for the decrease, apologies to Ducks Unlimited and California Waterfowl, and that has not turned out to be true either, for the decrease in numbers of many species, particularly ducks and geese, yet a changed environment has been a potent factor in bringing about the present condition. It only requires a day's journey about the valley to convince anyone that conditions are rapidly becoming unsuited for waterfowl. The large grain and stock ranches are being subdivided. Reclamation work is steadily reducing the swamp-covered areas. Vineyards and orchards are springing up everywhere with a consequent great increase in population of people. Even the tule ponds that remain are often unsuitable for a nesting place on account of the custom of using them as foraging grounds for bands of hogs. This is 1913. So he finishes by saying, such birds as rear their young in a very few weeks and are able to make use of any temporary overflow ponds are not in immediate danger, but the ducks and geese and others that require concealment during the summer or large open fields in winter are surely doomed. So when I thought about that and think about the challenge we have, it still gives me hope to know that there are still wild areas. We got a lot to do, but they haven't disappeared since 1913. So I hope that we can see that, bring it back that way as much as we can.
Thank you so much, Professor Hansen. 2 more people to share?
So one of the things I took away very much from this thing is that there is a lot of energy in what is going on in the San Joaquin Valley. Having grown up here, spent over 35 years working for the state, as an environmental scientist, trying to get things going, growing up in the Porterville area along a nice little ditch, knowing the aquatic system, and Rob's discussion about, yeah, there's wild places. I thought that was a great wild place, but it was an irrigation ditch that I grew up next to, but I loved it. It's what got me involved in this stuff. I see the energy, I see the willingness to work together. I also see from some of the discussions, lots of education still needs to take place. I'm also aware from the state level and looking at the overall numbers that our job is huge. We had a nice discussion about, well, MLRP's just got $200 million in Prop 4. If we were to buy, I don't know, 20,000 acres at, at $10,000 an acre, that chews that right up, and we're talking about 500,000 acres, that gets retired on this. And so getting the value, getting the other things in here. We have a Frank Kern Canal that $250 million for a fix on that, and as they were fixing it, it was mentioned earlier, yeah, it's still subsiding. They probably need that money again, and a big chunk came from both the feds and the state, but you can't put that all on the farming community, even though they're the ones who drove groundwater and other things to make the subsidence. There's just not enough economics in that. We need to be able to figure out a good way to do all this stuff. But I'm optimistic. We got the energy, we got the things started. We need a whole lot better outreach to some of the communities out here because they've got great ideas. So I am actually optimistic on this.
Thanks, John. One more person to share? Barry, would you like to be the last person to share, since it goes to you next?
Okay, my takeaway message, probably, I don't know how many of you maybe just thought, oh, well, of course. When Gray was mentioning a new way of communicating through Facebook or other things, because we can't, as a partnership, the Watershed Partnership, we are outside of one paid, part-time paid executive director, we are all volunteers. And for the past number of years, and actually since we started this in 2012 or so, it's all been pretty much volunteers with the help from agency people. But most everybody now is doing this on their volunteer time. So to see this and the people we've had today is really encouraging. What I do want you to know is, and hopefully it will pay off, for a period of time, I don't know how long Rachel was here. Rachel Clement, who's the field representative for Congressman David Valadeo, was here. And we sure hope that she heard the voices of not only the congressman's, his constituencies, but this constituency here, that she could take a message back that, we're working on it, but it's a big job. And it's a big future, and there's a lot at stake. So, if anything, I hope that this is going to have the effect of taking the message far beyond just those of us in this room. I do like the idea of new ways of communicating that are not that are self-generating, that are organic, and so that's my takeaway. And thanks. I mean, hopefully we can figure out how to do that. I accepted. All right. So anyway, thank you all. And everybody, please get home safely. And we look forward to seeing you again next year.